Hello everyone, and this is now going into a... Hello everyone, this is Crota, giving you a shoutcast and a replay between StarTale's Bomber and Donregu here on Metropolis. This is Game 3 in a best of 3 series, the deciding match between Donregu and StarTale's Bomber. And this series has been simply one to behold. Very, very good games going back and forth. StarTale's Bomber showing how strong multiple medevac drops can be when you're able to hit in multiple locations. Even though he was not trading efficiently, Bomber knew that he could in fact do so since he was up on bases. Donregu has spawned as the red Zerg here at the 3 o'clock position. Meanwhile, Bomber has spawned as the blue Terran at the 6 o'clock position. Terran versus Zerg once more, and I am looking forward to this matchup. Drone now doing a quick scout, making sure that there are no proxy barracks here in the typical location, and then I believe with this he will be going with a hatchery first. Overlord is going to be able to spot out his opponent. He is going to pretty much see everything he needs to see. He's going to see the timing on gas, or most likely the lack of gas, and know that it's going to be a 1-Rax expand. Coming in, Bomber decided to actually delay his SCV a little bit for a second there. Not quite sure why. Perhaps making a mistake. Donregu now going for that fast hatchery once more. Also getting an Overlord to sit in this position here. And he'll have good sight for quite some time. Now, unfortunately for Donregu, he doesn't have that good of a spot in order to actually hide Overlords. He wants to be able to see when this expansion is taken, but because of this long walkway here, this Overlord cannot hide down here outside the range of Marines, unlike, say, on Ohana. We are going to be going into a spawning pool. I still don't see any gas, and with this, is Donregu perhaps looking to go for a faster third base? Normally, the third base timing has been around the 4 to 5 minute mark as of late, especially against a fast expanding Protoss or Terran. That may continue to be the case, but it looks as though, no, all we are going to be seeing is Donregu just trying to saturate up on 2 bases first before establishing his next base. We are going into reactor barracks with the reactor with no factory as of yet. So no factory, perhaps we'll see double training of Marines and then see a factory. So Bomber is going to actually be able to hold off and train up more units for a little while, as we now are still seeing the early portion of this game. There's that factory that I mentioned moments ago. Orbital Command looking to come in as well. Taking a look around, I don't see what StarTale Bomber's real strategy is going to be just quite yet. He's going to be trying to place down a little bit of pressure. He's not really training any Marines off of this barracks, as we are seeing that is not going to be setting up a new base off over here yet. So I am a little bit concerned for Donregu. Donregu, perhaps he's going to be going into that heavy drone strategy once more. He doesn't like what he saw in the previous game, where it felt like Bomber just walked in with Marines and Hellions and just did terrible damage. And there was not much that Donregu could really do to stop it. But right now, we see that he is going into 6 queen play with a whole bunch of queens. It's 6 queen play with 3 hatcheries. A whole bunch of queens, meaning that we are going to see that creep tumor advantage, and perhaps Donregu will be able to utilize it a bit more, unlike the previous game. That is going to be a whole bunch of creep tumors spreading out here in just a moment, as drones are now just being trained up very quickly. We now see a command center being built off here. I am a bit surprised that we don't see a bunker down over here, as that is normally what Bomber does like to do. A 13 supply advantage for Donregu. Harvester count We are now taking a look at 44 to 31, salvaging that bunker. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure why that bunker was there at all, as we are now going into siege tanks. What is this? No siege tanks. Apparently just doing a little bit of flip-flopping all over the place. And Bomber actually lost a siege tank there in terms of construction. So now it looks like Bomber is trying to change up his strategy to Hellions, and to Hellions only, knowing that he is not going to be doing any sort of crazy aggressive maneuver as he did in the previous game. There are some creep tumors off over here, a whole bunch of creep tumors down over here as well. We'll see what's going to be happening. We're going to be seeing 6 creep tumors being laid down here in just a moment. There they are, and waiting for the additional energy. Oh, no, it doesn't look like it. Perhaps trying to wait to get the 75 energy so that those queens all do have transfusions. Very, very important tactic if all of a sudden you are going up against a whole bunch of Marines. Both players pretty much playing in the dark right now. Hellions do have a lot of map control sitting at these 2 Xel'Naga towers in the center portion of the map. Pretty much they'll be able to see that creep tumor spread slowly make its way over. As you see, that creep tumors are now making their way across the field. So we are going to have 4 creep tumors here in just a moment, and a lot of energy on those queens for transfusions, making it very difficult to take them down. All right, cancellation on that spine crawler. We are going to be running up more on bases. Dawn Ray Gu is pretty much going up unchecked, and you can now see the 65 to 52 drone advantage. Production tab shows another 4 drones being trained, and I'm still wondering what Bomber is looking to do here. Bomber with Marines and siege tanks, he feels he's not too far behind, but he feels perhaps a little bit at a loss on how to actually pressure Dawn Ray Gu. Dawn Ray Gu does have a fair number of drones running on each of these bases. You can see, I believe it is 16, at least 16 at each of these bases here, which should mean that he should be trying to establish up this base here momentarily. Now, we also see Dawn Ray Gu opting to transition into Mutalisk play. I'm not quite sure if I agree with the Mutalisk play, just because he hasn't really seen what's going on inside his opponent's base. He doesn't know the upgrades. He doesn't know the sheer number of Marines that are already on the field. 20 Marines and medevacs are already being added, so Dawn Ray Gu may actually be countering himself. And both of these players content with playing in the dark and not really dealing that much damage across the board. Bomber is now looking to do a bit of a drop. You see how the medevac pilot give that thumbs up there, ready to unload here on this hatchery. This hatchery will get taken down. Meanwhile, supply depots on the front door. Zerglings still checking around and will be taking down the destructible rocks here. Marines are going to be unloading and simply just making a way down over towards this hatchery and destroying it here in just a moment. Zerglings now looking to back away. These destructible rocks did take a little bit of damage. And what exactly is Bomber waiting for? Bomber, waiting for Stim. Combat Shield is just moments behind, and this hatchery most likely will just get canceled. A lot of damage dealt for only 75 resources lost, as we see the Marines still making their way over, perhaps going to try to take down another set of destructible rocks here. We may see another lift off and landing, an extra stim from Bomber, which I believe was completely unnecessary, as another drop now happening here. Mutalisk going to finish this up, and I believe the drop play may end up getting cleaned up, as the Mutalisk should be able to intercept any of those medevac drops. Zerglings now looking to come back in and do a surround. There you have it. Zerglings now looking to come in here. That is going to be a very, very bad day for those Marines. Down it goes. They try to focus down a Mutalisk, unable to do so, as Dawn Ray Gu now has a 182 supply advantage. 75 drones, 77 SCVs. Mutalisk upgrades all coming across the board. Infestation Pit now being added as well. Army compositions much, much larger for Dawn Ray Gu. That's actually surprisingly larger at this stage. Thors are being added. And is Bomber going to be actually able to hold whatever Dawn Ray Gu is trying to do? He needs to get more Thors. He needs to get a lot more units across the board, as we now see a center tower quickly getting destroyed before it gets operational. One Mutalisk does get taken down, and the Marines quickly jump inside that bunker. Off over here, the Mutalisk now able to find a little bit of an opening, backing away. There is only one missile turret. The missile turret does get off one shot of those longbow missiles as the Mutalisk are now backing away again. Queen, and now the creep spread simply all across the map. This is a sight to behold, as over 60% of the map is covered in creep, and it's just going to continue to grow. Bomber has now caught up in terms of supply, only about 8 supply down now, as we are going to see an attack now come in. Bunkers, banelings, everything's are just going to melt away. What's going to be happening here? And now the front door has been taken down. Zerg is now trying to swarm in here. Mutal is trying to take down the siege tanks, but Bomber, actually in a very beautiful position, very, very deep back, was able to take down many of the banelings before they got within baneling splash damage range. Benefit of Zerg, though, being able to almost instantaneously replenish that army off of these hatcheries. We need to see another queen over here to initialize all those injects, but Don Regu is still in a very, very good position. What is going to be happening here? Mutal is still flying around the map. This base has been established by Bomber. Bomber now even on bases. And what are we going to have here? Supply depots, very sparse. And it looks as though Bomber is just trying to do harassment damage, supply blocking his opponent. All right, there goes another supply depot. There's sitting at 200 over 199. Another supply depot going to get taken down here. And all these Mutalisks can do is just minor harassment. Their movement speed very effective at getting where they need to go. But Bomber seems to just have a beautiful answer to everything. Bomber with a large array of Marines, Thors, siege tanks, and medevacs may be able to clean this up, as we now see a scanner sweep trying to clean this up here. Banelings gonna find some of their targets. Zerglings unable to find anything here, as the siege tanks are still trying to back away. A queen is taking down off over here. All the creep tumors, here we go. Siege tanks very deep back, and this is gonna be a meat grinder. Don Regu trying to replenish his forces, and Bomber just cleaning them up. Bomber with, I believe, 2-2 upgrades, now going into 3-3, also getting the level 1 ship upgrades. Should be able to take down multiple creep tumors here, and this may be the beginning of StarTale Bomber's victory. Zerglings is now trying to make their way in. Banelings rolling in. Are they going to be able to deal any damage? Sacrificing themselves onto a Thor. Not the greatest of trades, but Don Regu actually catching Bomber very, very far on creep, and that may not have been the smart move. The problem with creep is that it recedes so slowly that even though all the creep tumors were down, even though all the creep tumors were gone, there was not much that Bomber could really do. Bomber needed to press his advantage while he had it, but the further he pressed out onto that creep, the less of an advantage he had, as you could see. Mutalisk now flying back around. There is one missile turret off in position here. It looks like a medevac may actually be able to spot that, as the medevac now flying around the corner. You can see Don Regu looking to establish up another base, trying to get ahead once more. A sea of Zerglings in the front. Army compositions are now in favor of Bomber, as Zerglings are just running in to try and take down Marines and Marauders. Units are backing away again. Planetary Fortress now going into multiple command centers in order to get multiple mules and sacrifice some SCVs, it looks like. Don Regu now supply blocked at 181 over 180. Bomber now starting to build up a bank of gas. Should be able to really replenish his siege tank numbers if it gets lost quickly. Here we have it. Ship upgrades, armor upgrades, everything just getting upgraded across the board. Don Regu is going into Infestor Broodlord. That is going to be perhaps the magical composition of units to take down and slow down this Thor siege tank Terran bio army. Mutalisk now making their way in. Are the Marines going to get taken down? It looks like banelings are going to hit many of their targets. And wow, Bomber losing a lot of units there. The Zerglings could have perhaps finished off a siege tank or two, as we now see the Marines and the Marauders trying to clean this up. Infestors making off a fungal growth. Oh, they're just going to run straight in, and Don Regu losing 6 Infestors without doing any damage, and that was a terrible, terrible blow, as the Marines are now once again very, very far forward trying to clean up these creep tumors. And is it going to be enough? All the Zerglings unable to do anything there. We are going to see a lift up onto the high ground, and perhaps the medevacs are going to do a bit of damage as we now see Marauders off over here. Here we go. Marines are getting dropped in. Bomber in a beautiful position to try and clean up. Don Regu now with nothing inside his main base. There is some minor attacks happening across the map, but Bomber with a much larger army and I believe a better income at this point. Actually, no, he's actually behind in income, even though Bomber does have a whole bunch of orbital commands here. All right, we are now going into Mass Tech Labs. Are we actually going into Mass Raven? Oh my goodness, Mass Raven would be a sight to behold, as Ravens now have that Seeker missile that deals so much damage, and it doesn't cost an upgrade. All right, another medevac drop pickup now getting cleaned. A transition into Raven is a beautiful strategy now, since Bomber is sitting on a large amount of gas. Ship plating upgrades now being added. You can see a Queen trying to fend off this attack here. Not going to work. Another group of Marines now coming in to take down this particular hive, and it looks as though the Zerglings are not going to be able to do much. All right, in comes the pressure still. Siege tanks coming in. Zerglings are just going to simply run by, not actually dealing any damage to those siege tanks. Another drop up on the high ground, and Bomber looks to really clean up Don Regu. You can see double Ravens now being trained up off over here, and quad Vikings, and with the with air superiority, I believe Sky Terran is going to be able to take down Don Regu, even if he does transition and gets a good number of Broodlords. The number of Vikings and Ravens in the air will simply be too much to counter. Ship upgrades now being added, so the Vikings will be dealing even more damage, as Bomber is just trying to shut the door on what Don Regu could possibly do. Infestors are being hatched out here in just a moment. There is a lot of gas for both sides. Siege tanks are all in position here, and they're all going to die very quickly, as you can see that the Broodlord count is starting to really pile up. All right, a quick scanner sweep, scaring back those Broodlords. The Broodlords unable to finish off these last two siege tanks, but you never know when a squadron of Vikings is on the way. All right, it looks like Bomber is going to hide his Sky Terran tech just a little longer. Off over here, you can see Vikings now being added. We're up to 8 Vikings. More Ravens. We're going to have 4 Ravens here in just a moment. More Ravens still being added to the count, as we are now seeing perhaps more units. Are they going to be going into a mass drop? Okay, 2 medevacs now making their way out. Siege tanks perhaps should be repaired here in just a moment. And what is we having next? Transfusions onto the hive to make sure that it doesn't get taken down. But a medevac is coming in for another drop here. There's some more transfusions trying to keep it alive. In comes the Zerglings. Are they going to be able to snipe down the hive? I do not believe so. Able to save it. Very nice. And Don Regu with the foresight to actually transfuse his hive in order to make sure that that does not get taken down. Oh, Seeker missile now being upgraded. Okay, I guess this was prior to the patch. Caduceus or Corvid reactor now being upgraded as well. So the Seeker missile now being upgraded. We should have plenty of Seeker missiles, plenty of energy. Corvid reactor now being added as well. We are going to be going into 8 Ravens in just a moment. Corvid reactor should be is it going to complete in time? No, it is not. So all of those Ravens will be down a little bit of energy, as the Ravens are now on the move. Seeker missile needs about another 40 seconds to go. Siege tanks now on a roll. Don Regu is going to, I believe, be completely blindsided by this transition into Sky Terran tech, as we are now up to 17 Vikings. 17 Vikings up against 10 Corruptors. That is not a good numbers at all, especially when you throw in additional splash damage. Oh, a point defense drone saving a Raven. Very nicely done, as Vikings are now on the hunt. This one low hit point Raven, what is going to happen here? It is just on the lookout. Perhaps it is going to, it may actually drop an auto turret. No, it's just going to let the Viking land, clean up this creep tumor, jump back up, and we may see a landing of a base on this island expansion. We're actually seeing the islands now being taken. Ship upgrades level 3, 4 more command centers. Mobius reactor for energy on Ghost now being added. And we now see Zerg with a much larger army still. Let's see what's going to be happening here. SCVs sacrificing themselves for the greater cause. Siege tanks are now making their way in. Vikings going to engage. All right, what's going to be happening here? Raven now making its way forward. It's going to get taken down very quickly. There's another fungal growth. The Vikings are now trying to engage. What's going to be happening as a fleet of Vikings or squadron of Vikings coming in? There's a Seeker missile now coming in. There is another Seeker missile. All of those Broodlords taking so much splash damage. Infestors taking so much damage. So much damage being dealt. And wow, what is happening here? Vikings now trying to engage. Splash damage across the board. Point defense drone now intercepting the attacks. Fungal growth on all the Vikings. There's mules now coming in. Are they going to be on auto repair? There is the GG. Wait, what? All right. Yeah, there is the GG. 127 versus 123. Harvest, or the production tab, shows more infestors and more Zerglings, but now that all of those corruptors and broodlords were taken down, there wasn't much Donray Gu could do. The attack force, even the Vikings could go into ground mode. Ground mode Vikings very effective at dealing damage, especially if there's nothing really there to counter them. There were no units on the ground pretty much. Only queens, infestors, and a couple Zerglings. 4 ravens. We saw 2 nukes were ready. As that final battle, I actually want to see that again. Let's take a look at that final battle once more. Right here, you can see, let's take a look at the numbers. Just corruptors, both sides. Let's take a look at the army compositions. The army compositions so much larger for Donray Gu, 189, but you can take a look at all that splash damage from all of those Seeker missiles just splashing across the board. Another group of infestors getting lost there, and then dropping point defense drones to make sure that the corruptors couldn't do anything. And you could all of a sudden see that the Vikings were actually finishing off here. I'm actually not 100% sure. If we take a look back at the 28-minute mark here, I think Donray Gu could have actually had this game. Let's take a look at the army compositions. There's one. There's another Seeker missile coming down here. And the armies are still larger in favor of Donray Gu. Both sides are fighting. Vikings are engaging. Bomber is actually losing out here. There's the Manor Mules. And I think Donray Gu could have actually... No, he would not be able to hold off that many Vikings. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.